The warning signs God sends when you're on the wrong path. There are moments in life when everything seems normal on the outside, yet something inside you begins to whisper that something is not right. It is not fear, and it is not imagination. It is a quiet spiritual signal, a kind of inner pull that stops you mid-step and makes you question the direction you are taking. When God sees you drifting toward a path that was never meant for you, He does not let you walk blindly. He begins to send subtle signs, small disruptions, and unmistakable nudges that shake the silence around your soul. These moments are not accidents. They are invitations. They are opportunities to pause, breathe, and recognize that your life has meaning far beyond the choices you are forcing, the plans you are pushing, and the roads you are walking without peace. Right now, you may feel confused, restless, or strangely out of place. You may not understand why something that once felt comfortable now feels heavy. You may not see the reasons behind the tension building inside your spirit. But these shifts are signals. God is trying to reach you before the consequences reach you first. He is calling you to listen, to pay attention, to understand that every warning is wrapped in love and every redirection is a rescue. As you move through this message, you will begin to recognize the moments when God whispered, when He interrupted, when He slowed you down, and when He placed a barrier between you and a mistake you could not yet see. These signs are real. They are personal. They are meant for you. When your spirit hesitates before your mind understands. There are moments when life seems to flow naturally, when your steps feel automatic and your decisions appear simple. You move forward believing everything is aligned, and then, without warning, something inside you slows down. It is not a thought, not a fear, not a memory. It is a quiet shift inside your spirit, as if an unseen hand is gently pressing your heart and asking you to wait. This hesitation feels strange because nothing on the outside seems wrong, yet the inside knows something you have not understood. This is one of the most profound ways God speaks. Before the evidence appears, before circumstances reveal the truth, and long before consequences unfold, God awakens your spirit with a subtle but undeniable sense that something is off. You feel it in the pause you cannot justify. You sense it in the discomfort you cannot explain. Your mind searches for a reason, but your spirit already knows one exists. This hesitation is not weakness or insecurity. It is divine protection. God sees every path in front of you, including the roads that look harmless but hide exhaustion, heartbreak, deception, or spiritual dryness. When He notices you drifting toward a direction that threatens your peace or your purpose, He sends a warning through your spirit before your mind can process the danger. It often arrives as a moment of sudden caution. You are about to say yes, and then something inside you urges no. You are ready to push forward, and then something invisible pulls you back. This inner check is not random. It is God whispering to you in the language of the soul, a language that speaks before logic, before emotion, and before clarity. Many people confuse this hesitation with anxiety or overthinking, but what God places in your spirit carries a different weight. It does not create panic. It creates awareness. It does not produce confusion. It produces caution. It does not fill your mind with noise. It creates a quiet sense that you need to pay attention. The enemy makes you rush. God makes you pause. This is why the hesitation feels so distinct. It is gentle but firm. It is quiet but unmistakable. It does not shout, yet it cannot be ignored. It is a whisper strong enough to stop your steps. Think of the moments when you were about to make a choice that seemed right, yet your spirit tightened. You sensed heaviness instead of peace. You felt unrest instead of clarity. You tried to reason your way forward, but your heart resisted. This resistance is a spiritual alarm God places inside you to protect you from the consequences you cannot yet see. Sometimes the danger is emotional, sometimes relational, sometimes spiritual. Sometimes you are walking towards something that will drain you. Other times you are moving away from something God intended to bless you. In either case, the hesitation is a rescue, not an inconvenience. God often warns you long before anything happens. He alerts your spirit while your mind is still relaxed. This early warning is a sign of His love. He does not wait for you to fall to show you the truth. He shows you the truth so you will not fall. When you honor this hesitation, you honor God's guidance. When you dismiss it, you silence the very voice designed to lead you. This spiritual hesitation becomes a compass when you learn to recognize it. You begin to notice the difference between moving forward with peace and forcing something that does not belong to you. You start to feel the contrast between God-led clarity and self-driven determination. You realize that the path God blesses carries a sense of inner agreement, while the wrong path always carries a subtle resistance in your soul. This awareness helps you avoid mistakes, delays, emotional wounds, and unnecessary detours. It helps you walk with wisdom instead of impulse. It helps you trust God more than your own understanding. Right now, think about the moments in your life when you felt this hesitation. Times when something inside asked you to slow down, rethink, or step back, even though everything looked fine. Those moments were not random. They were divine. God was already ahead of you, seeing what you could not see, protecting you from what you did not know. When your spirit hesitates before your mind understands, it is because God is guarding your future. 30. The unexpected discomfort that interrupts your routine. There are seasons when everything in your life feels predictable. You wake up, follow your schedule, manage your responsibilities, and move through your days with a sense of familiarity. Your routine becomes a comfortable rhythm, and you assume that this rhythm is a sign that everything is aligned. Then, without warning, something shifts. A discomfort rises inside you, subtle at first, then persistent, then impossible to ignore. It disrupts your sense of normal. It interrupts your flow. It unsettles your peace in a way that feels strange because nothing external has changed, yet everything inside you feels different. This discomfort is not random. It is a spiritual interruption designed to alert you when the path beneath your feet is no longer aligned with the path God prepared for you. You may wake up one day and feel a heaviness in your heart that you cannot trace. You may be doing something you have done 100 times before, yet suddenly it feels wrong, empty, or draining. What once energized you now exhausts you. What once inspired you now irritates you. What once felt purposeful begins to feel meaningless. This inner discomfort is God stirring your spirit, breaking the illusion of comfort so He can reveal a truth you have not acknowledged. He removes the sense of ease so you will stop walking through life on autopilot and begin paying attention to what He is trying to show you. God often disrupts your routine when He wants to redirect you. As long as you feel comfortable, you will keep moving without questioning. You will remain attached to familiar patterns even if those patterns are slowly leading you away from your calling. So God introduces a discomfort that shakes you awake. He disrupts conversations that used to satisfy you. He disturbs environments that used to feel safe. He removes the sense of belonging from places you were never meant to settle. Discomfort becomes a divine signal that you are drifting from the place where your growth, your purpose, and your future are waiting. This type of discomfort is different from stress or exhaustion. It carries a spiritual weight. You feel it even on calm days. It lingers even when life seems stable. It feels like your soul is whispering that something deeper needs attention. It pushes you to step back and examine your choices, your priorities, your relationships, and your direction. God uses discomfort as a spiritual interruption because He knows that emotional turbulence often opens the door to reflection, and reflection opens the door to transformation. Many people ignore this discomfort because it seems inconvenient. They blame it on work, pressure, or mood, and they brush it aside. But when the discomfort keeps returning, when it follows you even into quiet moments, when it grows stronger each time you resist it, that is a sign you are not dealing with something natural. You are dealing with something spiritual. God is trying to get your attention. He is nudging you to look beneath the surface and recognize that you are on a path that no longer aligns with His purpose for your life. There are times when this discomfort appears right before a major decision. You are about to commit to something. Invest in something, accept something, or enter something, and suddenly a deep internal uneasiness rises. You may not know why, but you feel it strongly enough to hesitate. You sense that moving forward would cost you peace. That sense of caution is God interrupting your momentum to protect you from a future that does not belong to you. There are also times when the discomfort appears after you have already made a decision. You chose a path that seemed right, but now every step feels heavier. God allows the discomfort to grow so you will recognize that the direction you chose is draining your spirit instead of strengthening it. This spiritual discomfort is one of the clearest indicators that God is inviting you to reevaluate your path. It is not meant to punish you. It is not meant to scare you. It is meant to save you. God disrupts your routine when routine itself becomes dangerous. When your comfort keeps you blind to what needs to change, God removes the comfort so you can see. When your habits keep you stuck in a cycle that limits your growth, God disturbs the cycle so you can break free. When your routine becomes a refuge that replaces His presence, He interrupts it so you return to Him. Pay attention to the unexpected discomfort that rises without reason. It is not a mistake. It is not coincidence. It is a spiritual alarm that calls you to stop, listen, and seek clarity. God is opening your eyes through the unease you feel. He is preparing you for something greater by pulling you away from something that no longer serves your purpose. When your routine is interrupted by discomfort, it is God calling you to grow. The loss of meaning in things that once fulfilled you. There comes a point in life when something you once loved no longer feels the same. Activities that once brought you joy now feel hollow. Dreams that once motivated you begin to fade. Even the people, goals, and routines that once energized you start to feel distant, unfamiliar, or strangely disconnected from your heart. This loss of meaning is one of the most misunderstood spiritual signs God uses to alert you that you are drifting from His intended path. It does not happen suddenly. It begins quietly, subtly, almost gently, like a soft dimming of the light inside something that used to shine brightly. At first, you tell yourself you are tired or distracted. You try to push through it. You try to force the old enthusiasm to return. But no matter how hard you try, the feeling does not come back. This shift is not a failure of motivation. It is not a sign that you are ungrateful or inconsistent. It is a sign that God is redirecting your heart. When God wants to move you to a new season, He often begins by removing the emotional attachment you had to the previous one. He takes away the sense of fulfillment not to frustrate you, but to detach you from something that no longer carries your purpose. What once felt alive now feels outdated, because God is preparing you for something that aligns more deeply with who you are becoming. When He begins to remove the satisfaction from a path, it is because the path no longer reflects His plan for your future. You may try to revive what is dying. You may try to hold on to old habits, old dreams, old roles, or old identities because they once defined you. But the more you cling to them, the heavier they feel. God allows this heaviness not to burden you, but to help you release what you were never meant to carry into the next chapter. When meaning disappears, it is because your spirit is outgrowing the environment that once sustained it. This is why trying to force passion in a place where God has removed His peace feels draining. You are trying to build in a land God has already asked you to leave. This loss of meaning can be confusing because nothing external may have changed. The job is the same. The relationship is the same. The routine is the same. The environment is the same. But you are not the same. God has been working within you, reshaping your desires, maturing your perspective, and strengthening your spirit. What fulfilled an earlier version of you can no longer nourish who you are now. God removes the old hunger so you can develop a new one. If He allowed you to keep finding meaning in the wrong place, you would stay stuck in a life that no longer reflects your calling. There are moments when the loss of meaning appears as an emotional emptiness, a quiet dissatisfaction that lingers even when everything around you looks stable. You may wonder why you feel disconnected from your own life, as if you are watching yourself from a distance. You may feel guilty for not enjoying what once brought you happiness. But this shift is not an emotional flaw. It is spiritual awakening. God is loosening your grip on a season that has served its purpose. Some things fulfilled you temporarily because they were meant to guide you, teach you, or strengthen you for a time. But when that season ends, the satisfaction goes with it. This spiritual signal becomes clearer when you try to force yourself to stay. The more you push, the more disconnected you feel. The more you try to reignite old passions, the more they resist. You find yourself questioning everything. You wonder why the fire went out. You wonder why the desire faded. You wonder why the same environment now leaves you feeling empty. The answer is simple. God is shifting your heart toward a new path, and meaning always follows purpose. When the purpose of a season expires, the meaning expires with it. There are times when the loss of meaning is God's mercy. If He allowed you to find joy in the wrong place, you would never seek the right one. If He allowed temporary fulfillment to continue, you would settle for something far beneath your calling. He removes the emotional reward so you will begin searching for something deeper, more truthful, more aligned with your spiritual identity. This search leads you back to Him. It leads you into growth. It leads you into clarity. It leads you into the life He has been preparing for you. Pay attention when something once meaningful begins to feel empty. It is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transition. God is stirring your spirit, separating you from what has expired so you can step into what is eternal. When meaning fades, it is because God is calling you forward. The sudden clarity that arrives in moments of silence. There are seasons when the world around you feels loud, busy, and overwhelming. Yet the true turning points of your life come in the quiet moments. You can go through days filled with noise, decisions, responsibilities, and routines without noticing anything unusual. But then, a moment of silence arrives unexpectedly. It might come late at night when you finally stop moving. It might come during a pause in your day when no one is demanding your attention. It might come while you are driving, praying, or simply sitting alone. In that silence, something becomes clear. A thought rises that you had been avoiding. A truth surfaces that you had been denying. A realization hits you that you cannot ignore. It feels as if God is speaking into the very center of your soul, exposing what the noise of life had been covering. This sudden clarity is not a coincidence. It is one of the most profound ways God warns you when you are on the wrong path. As long as your life is filled with constant motion, endless distraction, and non-stop activity, you can convince yourself that everything is fine. You can silence the uneasiness, ignore the conviction, and outrun the truth. But in the stillness, your spirit becomes honest. Your heart becomes open. Your mind becomes quiet enough for God to reveal what your busyness has been hiding. Silence strips away every justification you have been using. In the quiet, you see your choices clearly. You see your direction clearly. You see your intentions clearly. You see the consequences clearly. And that clarity is often God's warning. Many people fear silence because silence forces them to confront what they do not want to face. They fill their days with noise to avoid the truth their spirit has been whispering. But God uses silence as a spiritual spotlight. He shines it onto the areas of your life that are misaligned, neglected, or hidden. He reveals where your heart has drifted. He shows you where your peace has been lost. He exposes the places where compromise has entered. This clarity is not meant to condemn you. It is meant to protect you. God reveals the truth in silence so you can correct your direction before the consequences of that direction grow heavier. This clarity often appears as a sudden awareness that something in your life is not right. You may have been ignoring the discomfort for days, weeks, or even months, but in the silence, the truth becomes undeniable. You see the relationship differently. You see the decision differently. You see your priorities differently. You see yourself differently. God uses these quiet revelations to pull you out of deception, self-denial, or emotional blindness. He gives you a moment where everything becomes sharp and unmistakably real. It feels uncomfortable because it disrupts the illusions you built to make the wrong path feel safe. You may experience this clarity through a single thought that enters your mind with unusual intensity. It may not be a loud voice, but it feels direct and firm. You may suddenly realize that the direction you are pursuing is draining your spirit, threatening your peace, or moving you away from the person you are meant to be. You may recognize that you have been forcing something God has been trying to remove. You may understand in one instant why your heart has felt heavy, or why your spirit has been restless. That clarity is God cutting through the noise to warn you. Sometimes this clarity comes through conviction. You see a behavior or decision with honesty for the first time. You recognize the compromise you were trying to rationalize. You notice how far you have drifted from your values, your purpose, or your spiritual identity. This conviction is not meant to shame you. It is meant to realign you. Conviction is a sign of God's presence, not His rejection. He convicts you to save you from the consequences of continuing down a path that is slowly damaging your soul. Other times, this clarity reveals where God is calling you to go. You may not know every detail, but you sense direction. You sense redirection. You sense that your heart is being pulled toward something more aligned with who God is shaping you to become. Silence becomes the doorway through which God introduces the next chapter of your life. He gives you the clarity you need to release what is fading and embrace what is being born. Pay attention to the clarity that comes in silence. It is not random. It is not fleeting. It is not your imagination. It is God breaking through the noise of your life to speak directly to your spirit. When clarity appears in a quiet moment, treat it as sacred. It is a divine warning wrapped in revelation. It is God guiding you gently, protecting you quietly, and calling you to step away from the wrong path before it becomes harder to leave. In silence, God gives you the truth your heart has been needing. When doors open too easily and not every opportunity is from God, there are moments when life presents you with opportunities that seem almost too perfect to refuse. A conversation falls into place at the right time. A chance appears out of nowhere. An option opens so quickly and so effortlessly that you assume it must be God clearing the way. After all, we learn from childhood that when God opens a door, no one can shut it. But what most people never stop to consider is that not every open door is divine. Some doors appear smooth because they are meant to distract you. Some paths look easy because they require no growth. Some opportunities feel convenient because they lead you away from the discipline, endurance, and spiritual strength God is trying to build in you. Not every open door is a blessing. Some are replacements for the blessing you were meant to wait for. You can be in a moment of transition, uncertainty, or restlessness when a plan presents itself so naturally that you barely think twice. It looks promising. It looks simple. It looks immediate. But the question you must learn to ask is not whether the door is open, but whether the door is aligned with the character of God and the direction of His purpose for your life. The enemy opens doors too. He opens them quickly. He opens them smoothly. He opens them in moments when you are emotionally vulnerable, spiritually tired, or desperate for clarity. His goal is not to bless you. His goal is to distract you. He offers shortcuts that bypass growth. He offers opportunities that satisfy the present but steal from the future. He offers ease where God intended refinement. Open doors become dangerous when you interpret convenience as confirmation. God does not always work through convenience. Sometimes He calls you to walk through a narrow path, one that demands courage, obedience, and sacrifice. Sometimes He closes easy doors so you will learn to distinguish between what is good and what is right. Sometimes He forces you to wait so your discernment becomes stronger than your desire for immediate relief. If you equate every open door with God's approval, you will walk into places that drain your peace, weaken your convictions, and divert you from the path designed for your calling. There are signs that reveal when an open door is not from God. You may notice that everything around the opportunity looks perfect, but something inside you feels unsettled. The door opens easily, but your spirit hesitates. The path looks smooth, but your peace disappears. The offer looks promising, but your heart feels distant. When God opens a door, He accompanies it with clarity, stability, and inner agreement. When the enemy opens a door, it often comes with pressure, urgency, or a subtle compromise you try to rationalize. God does not push you through doors. He leads you. The enemy pushes. He rushes. He insists. God gives you peace. The enemy gives you hurry. There are also moments when the door opens at the wrong time. It aligns with your desire, but not with God's timing. It matches your impatience, but not your identity. It feeds your need for control, but not your spiritual maturity. You can walk through a door that God intended for you, but if you enter it in the wrong season, the blessing becomes a burden. Timing matters as much as direction. God closes some doors not because they are wrong, but because you are not ready. The enemy opens them early, hoping that your unprepared heart will damage what God intended to bless you later. Open doors can also reflect the condition of your heart. If you crave approval, the enemy will open doors that feed your pride. If you crave escape, he will open doors that pull you away from responsibility. If you crave comfort, he will open doors that prevent you from growing. God's doors require maturity, alignment, and spiritual readiness. They lead you toward purpose, not away from it. They require you to elevate who you are, not shrink into old versions of yourself. God opens doors that shape you. The enemy opens doors that shrink you. The most dangerous open doors are the ones that appear right when you are tired of waiting. This is the moment when discernment is most critical. When you are tired, you want resolution. When you are restless, you want movement. When you are hurting, you want relief. The enemy works through urgency. God works through peace. The wrong door can feel like a shortcut to the life you want, but it can cost you the life God intended. The wrong door can offer temporary comfort, but it steals long-term purpose. The wrong door can promise stability, but it removes you from the very process that would have made you strong enough to handle true blessing. When doors open too easily, pause. When opportunities fall into place without spiritual confirmation, wait. When the path looks smooth but your spirit feels uneasy, listen. God does not hide his guidance from those who seek it. He confirms his direction through peace, conviction, scripture, and alignment with his character. He will never open a door that requires you to abandon your values. He will never lead you to a path that demands you sacrifice your integrity. He will never call you into something that empties your soul. Learn to discern the difference between a door God opened and a door that simply opened. Not every opportunity is meant to be seized. Some are meant to be tested, some are meant to be turned away, and some are meant to strengthen your ability to recognize the voice of God over the noise of convenience. When doors open too easily, remember that God is not calling you to what is easy. He is calling you to what is right. The emotional weight that appears when you're walking away from your purpose. There are moments when life feels heavier than it should. You wake up with a pressure in your chest that you cannot explain. You move through your day carrying a weight that does not match your circumstances. Even simple tasks feel harder. Your energy declines. Your enthusiasm fades. Your thoughts become clouded. Nothing is necessarily wrong on the outside, yet everything inside feels burdened. This emotional weight is not always the result of stress, exhaustion, or routine challenges. There are times when it is a spiritual warning, a signal from God that you are drifting from who you were created to be. When your steps move away from your purpose, your spirit feels the distance before your mind can understand it. Purpose is not just a calling, it is alignment. It is the deep connection between who you are, what you do, and who God designed you to become. When you walk in your purpose, even difficult days carry meaning. Even challenges make sense. Even obstacles feel manageable because something inside you stays alive and connected. But when your choices begin to lead you away from that alignment, your spirit reacts immediately. The emotional weight begins to build as a way of alerting you to the growing gap between your life and your calling. It is not punishment, it is guidance. God allows the weight so you will notice the misalignment and recognize that something needs to change. This weight often appears gradually. At first you may feel a subtle heaviness that you brush aside. You tell yourself you are simply tired. You assume you need rest, a break, or a distraction. But rest does not help. Distraction does not lift the feeling. Entertainment does not ease the tension. The weight remains because its origin is not physical or emotional. It is spiritual. You are not simply tired. You are disconnected. Disconnected from the path that once gave you clarity, strength, and direction. Disconnected from the very place where your identity finds meaning. God allows the discomfort to increase so you will stop ignoring the signs your spirit has been trying to show you. There are moments when the emotional weight becomes stronger in environments that no longer align with who you are. Conversations drain you. Spaces that once felt familiar now feel distant. Activities that once brought joy now feel empty. People who once inspired you now leave you restless. This shift is not accidental. When you grow spiritually, your soul becomes sensitive to misalignment. God is shaping you, stretching you, evolving you, and guiding you into a version of yourself that cannot survive in the old places. The emotional weight is a sign that you are staying longer than God intended. There are also times when this emotional burden is tied to decisions you are making. You may be considering a choice that looks practical, but feels heavy. You may be forcing yourself into a plan that looks logical but drains your spirit. You may be pursuing something that promises success but offers no peace. When a decision carries weight before it even becomes reality, that is God warning you. He is showing you that the path you are trying to enter does not carry His presence. It may offer comfort, approval, or financial stability, but it cannot offer fulfillment. God does not require you to sacrifice your peace to walk in His will. This emotional weight can also appear when you are holding on to something God is asking you to release. A relationship that no longer aligns with your growth. A role that no longer reflects your identity. A dream that no longer matches your purpose. The weight increases because your spirit knows that holding on is slowing you down. God removes the ease from what you are trying to preserve so you can step into what He is preparing. The heaviness is not loss. It is transition. It is God pulling you out of a place that can no longer sustain who you are becoming. Many people try to numb this emotional weight instead of listening to it. They overwork, overspend, overcommit, or overthink to escape the discomfort. They ignore the signs and keep walking, hoping the feeling will fade. But it does not fade, it grows. The further you move from your purpose, the heavier the weight becomes. It follows you because it is meant to protect you. God uses this weight to pull you back into alignment. He is reminding you that your soul is not meant to survive on paths that strip you of identity, peace, or direction. There is a unique kind of freedom that comes when you listen to this emotional signal, when you stop pushing against it, when you stop pretending everything is fine, when you stop forcing a life that is shrinking your spirit. The moment you realign with your purpose, the weight begins to lift. Peace returns, clarity returns, strength returns, joy returns. God lifts what He once allowed because the warning has served its purpose. You are stepping back into who you were made to be. When emotional weight appears without explanation, pay attention. It is not random. It is not weakness. It is not mood. It is your spirit alerting you that something in your direction needs to change. It is God calling you gently, telling you that your life is meant to move in harmony with your purpose. And when you return to that purpose, the weight will no longer follow you. The quiet collapse of plans you forced into existence. There are seasons when you pour your energy, time, and heart into building something you believe will finally bring stability, fulfillment, or direction. You map out every detail. You push through resistance. You convince yourself that if you work harder, if you endure longer, if you sacrifice more, everything will eventually fall into place. At first, the plan seems promising. The foundation appears solid. The progress feels steady. But over time, small cracks begin to form. Little setbacks weaken your confidence. Unexpected delays disrupt your momentum. People withdraw their support. Doors close one after another. You try to hold everything together with determination and discipline, yet the structure keeps weakening. The collapse begins quietly, almost silently, as if the life you are trying to construct can no longer carry the weight you keep placing on it. This collapse is not always a sign of failure. In many cases, it is a spiritual intervention. When you build plans that are not aligned with God's purpose for your life, He does not allow those plans to stand. He lets them crumble piece by piece, so you will release what was never meant to hold your future. These quiet collapses feel confusing because you believed the plan was good. You believed the opportunity was right. You believed the idea was practical. Yet despite all your effort, the plan does not survive. This is because God is not obligated to bless what you forced. He blesses what He initiated. He sustains what He designed. He strengthens what aligns with His purpose for your identity and destiny. Many people misinterpret these collapses as spiritual attacks. They assume the enemy is trying to destroy their progress. But sometimes the collapse is not the enemy's work. Sometimes it is God's protection. He allows what you are building to fall because it would have cost you far more if it had succeeded. The wrong plan can drain your joy, steal your time, distort your priorities, and separate you from the path prepared for you. God lets the plan weaken so you won't remain trapped in something that cannot carry His intention for your life. The collapse often begins internally. Long before anything falls apart on the outside, your spirit starts to feel exhausted. You lose the inner peace that once guided you. The passion that fueled you fades. The excitement that carried you at the beginning becomes a burden. You try to revive the momentum, but nothing you do brings the life back. This internal collapse is the first warning. God is showing you that your spirit can no longer sustain something He never asked you to carry. Then the external collapse begins. People who were once supportive become distant. Opportunities that once seemed stable become uncertain. Plans you thought were secure begin to unravel. You experience delays that make no sense. You face challenges that appear out of nowhere. What you built begins to fall apart not because you are weak, but because the foundation was never meant to support your growth. God removes what you forced so He can rebuild what will truly last. The hardest part is accepting that the collapse is necessary. You invested time, effort, emotion, and hope. You wanted the plan to succeed because you believed it would solve problems, bring clarity, or create stability. But God is not interested in temporary stability. He is interested in eternal alignment. He will never let you succeed at something that compromises your purpose. He will not allow your life to be held together by structures that weaken your identity or redirect your calling. The collapse becomes a form of divine mercy. God is saving you from a future built on the wrong foundation. There are times when you try to rebuild the same plan again and again. You ignore the signs. You try harder. You push further. You attempt to hold on to something God has already removed His hand from. Each attempt becomes more exhausting than the last. The collapse becomes quicker. The frustration becomes deeper. This is because God is not trying to punish you. He is trying to redirect you. He cannot bless what keeps you tied to a version of yourself that He has already outgrown. When your plans collapse quietly, do not resist the message. Listen to the shift happening inside you. Pay attention to the places where peace has disappeared. Notice the areas where effort no longer produces fruit. Recognize the doors that keep closing no matter how hard you push. These are indicators that God is guiding you towards something different, something stronger, something aligned with the depth of who you are becoming. The collapse is an invitation. It is God clearing the space where His guidance will rebuild something far greater than what you tried to construct through your own strength. When your plans begin to fall apart in silence, it is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of God's story for you. He is removing what cannot carry your purpose so He can prepare what will. Every quiet collapse leads you closer to the life He designed. When God removes the people who keep you from listening, there are moments in life when certain people begin to drift away without warning. Relationships change, connections fade, conversations lose depth, and individuals who once felt essential no longer hold the same place in your daily life. At first, this shift feels painful. You wonder what went wrong. You question whether you failed, whether they changed, or whether something could have been done differently. But there are seasons when God removes people not because something is broken, but because He needs to clear the noise around you. When you are on a path that is pulling you away from His voice, He begins to separate you from the influences that keep drowning His guidance. It feels like loss, but it is direction. It feels like rejection, but it is protection. There are individuals in your life whose presence once served a purpose. They offered companionship, support, or encouragement for a specific season. They walked with you when you needed strength, knowledge, or comfort. But as you evolve spiritually, your relationships must evolve with you. When a person's voice becomes louder than God's voice in your life, He begins to silence their influence. When their presence keeps you anchored to old habits, old patterns, or old identities, He gently moves them out of your path. God does not remove people to punish you. He removes people to free you from distraction, free you from dependency, free you from environments that weaken your discernment. This separation often begins subtly. Conversations that once felt natural begin to feel forced. The connection becomes blurred. The bond begins to weaken. You may notice that the person who once motivated you now drains you. The friend who once lifted your spirit now fills your mind with doubt. The relationship that once felt secure now feels unstable. These emotional shifts are not accidental. They are signs that the relationship has reached its expiration point for your spiritual journey. God does not allow connections to remain strong when they are no longer aligned with your purpose. There are times when God removes people because He knows what you cannot see. He knows the doors they would close for you. He knows the distractions they would introduce. He knows the compromises you would make to keep them close. He knows the spiritual growth you would lose by staying attached. God sees the future impact of every relationship in your life. You only see the present comfort. So when He separates you from someone, trust that He is guiding you, even if the reason is not yet visible. Some of the hardest separations come from people you deeply care about, people you trusted, people who shaped important seasons of your life. The loss feels sharp because you are emotionally invested, but even in this pain, God is working. He is teaching you that your purpose cannot depend on someone else's presence. He is showing you that your identity must be anchored in Him, not in the approval or companionship of another. He is preparing you for relationships that match your growth, not relationships that limit it. There are relationships that God removes because you cannot hear Him clearly as long as certain voices remain close. You may not realize how much someone influenced your decisions, shaped your emotions, or steered your thoughts. You may not notice how their perspective overshadowed God's direction. When God removes someone who keeps you from listening to Him, He is reclaiming your attention. Without the noise of their influence, your spirit becomes clearer, calmer, and more receptive to His guidance. You may try to hold on to people God is removing. You may attempt to rebuild a connection that is already fading. You may force conversations, plans, or interactions that no longer feel natural. But the more you try to hold on, the heavier the relationship becomes. There is no peace in something God is asking you to release. The weight intensifies because your spirit is resisting a direction your mind refuses to accept. God does not bless what you cling to out of fear, loneliness, or nostalgia. He blesses what you surrender in trust. When God removes someone, He always has a purpose. Sometimes the purpose is to protect you from future pain. Sometimes it is to elevate you into a new season. Sometimes it is to position you for relationships that match your destiny. And sometimes it is simply to create silence so you can finally hear Him without interference. In that silence, clarity begins to rise. You begin to understand that the person's season in your life was important, but it was not permanent. You begin to see the lessons they brought, the strength you gained, and the growth their departure produced. Separation becomes transformation when you trust God with what you cannot understand. He removes people not to leave you empty, but to make space for what is next. When He clears your life of voices that cloud His guidance, He brings you closer to His own. And in that closeness, you rediscover direction, identity, and purpose. The strange feeling of being out of sync with your own life. There are moments when you look at your life and everything seems normal, yet something deep inside feels strangely misaligned. You move through your responsibilities, fulfill your obligations, and maintain your routine. But there is a quiet sense that you are not fully present in the life you are living. It is as if you are watching yourself from a distance, participating but not connecting, moving but not belonging. This feeling is subtle at first. It comes as a quiet question in the back of your mind, a soft disconnection in your heart, a gentle awareness that something is not matching who you truly are. As the days pass, the disconnect grows stronger. You feel out of rhythm, as if the life around you is moving in one direction while your spirit is being pulled in another. This is not confusion. It is not a lack of gratitude. It is a spiritual signal that your life and your purpose are drifting apart. This feeling of being out of sync appears when you are living according to expectations rather than alignment. You might be fulfilling roles that no longer reflect your identity, pursuing goals that no longer match your growth, or maintaining commitments that no longer carry truth for your spirit. On the surface, everything appears ordered, even successful. But beneath the surface, your spirit senses that you are no longer walking in the direction God is calling you to follow. You feel like a guest in your own life. You feel present in body but absent in purpose. God uses this internal dissonance to draw your attention to the gap between the life you built and the life He designed. You may notice that this feeling intensifies in quiet moments. When the noise of the world fades, the disconnect becomes clearer. You sense that your life is moving, but not moving toward the place where your heart feels alive. You sense that your decisions are functioning, but not fulfilling what your spirit longs for. You sense that your days are full, but not meaningful. God uses this inner dissonance as a spiritual compass. When your external world no longer matches your internal calling, the discomfort becomes a guide pointing you back to the path you were created to walk. This feeling can appear even when you are doing everything right. You may be responsible, productive, and committed, yet still feel disconnected. This is because purpose is not measured by productivity. Purpose is measured by alignment. You can be productive in a life that is slowly emptying you. You can be efficient in a direction that leads you away from who you truly are. God does not want you to simply function. He wants you to flourish. When you are out of sync with your purpose, your spirit cannot flourish, no matter how disciplined you are. The disconnect becomes a signal that something deeper needs your attention. Often this feeling appears when you have ignored earlier signs. God may have already warned you through hesitation, discomfort, or fading meaning. But when those signals go unnoticed, He allows the disconnection to grow stronger. It becomes a spiritual alarm that you cannot silence. You may try to distract yourself with work, entertainment, or new commitments, but nothing removes the feeling. You may try to convince yourself that everything is fine, but your spirit knows the truth. This misalignment affects your emotions, your energy, your focus, and even your relationships. It creates an invisible tension that follows you because it is meant to guide you. There are moments when the feeling of being out of sync reveals that you are living according to who you used to be, not who you are becoming. Growth changes you. Maturity shifts your desires. Spiritual evolution requires new environments, new responsibilities, and new steps of faith. When you stay in a chapter that God has finished, your spirit becomes restless. Being out of sync is often a sign that you have outgrown the season you are trying to remain in. God makes the old season feel uncomfortable, so you will begin moving toward the new one. This misalignment may also point to a path you chose out of fear, pressure, or convenience rather than conviction. You may be walking a direction that pleases others but suffocates you. You may be following a plan that looks logical but feels lifeless. You may be holding onto an identity you no longer fit. God uses this feeling to call you away from pretending, performing, or settling. He invites you into authenticity, into truth, into the fullness of who He created you to be. The turning point comes when you stop fighting the feeling and start listening to it. When you acknowledge that the disconnect is not a flaw but a message. When you recognize that God is shifting your heart, so you will shift your steps. Being out of sync is not the end. It is a doorway. It is the moment when your soul tells you that where you are is not where you are meant to stay. It is God preparing you to step into alignment, purpose, and clarity. When you feel disconnected from your own life, do not ignore it. Pause. Listen. Pay attention. That feeling is a signal that God is calling you back into rhythm with the identity He crafted, the purpose He planted, and the path He designed. The gentle, divine interruption that saves you from yourself. There are moments when everything in your life seems to be moving forward smoothly, and just when you believe you have gained control of your direction, something unexpected brings you to a halt. It may come as a small inconvenience or a sudden delay. It might appear as an obstacle that interrupts your plans, slows your progress, or forces you to reconsider a choice you were determined to make. At first, you resist it. You interpret it as frustration, bad timing, or an attack against your progress. But as the interruption lingers, as your plans continue to stall, and as your spirit grows more alert, you begin to sense that this pause carries far more weight than inconvenience. It carries intention. It carries protection. It carries the unmistakable touch of God intervening to save you from a mistake your eyes cannot yet see. God does not only speak through opportunity, He speaks through interruption. When you are about to enter a situation that will drain your spirit, God creates delays that force you to slow down. When you are about to make a decision that will weaken your purpose, He places roadblocks that make the wrong path harder to pursue. When your heart is rushing ahead faster than your discernment, He interrupts your momentum so that wisdom can catch up. These interruptions do not feel pleasant. They disrupt your timing. They challenge your expectations. They force you to wait when your emotions demand progress. But beneath the discomfort lies a deeper truth. God is not denying you. He is redirecting you. There are times when divine interruption appears through circumstances you cannot control. Plans fall apart without warning. Resources you depended on become unavailable. People you relied on step back. Opportunities crumble at the last minute. Things you were certain about suddenly become uncertain. You feel frustrated because everything seemed aligned, yet nothing moves forward. But this is often the precise moment when God steps in. He interrupts your direction before it becomes destructive. He blocks paths that look right but carry unseen consequences. He stops you so you will not sabotage yourself. Divine interruption can also appear internally. You might wake up one day with a heaviness that stops your enthusiasm. You might sense a deeper caution that slows you down. You might feel a loss of peace that keeps you from moving ahead, even if the path looks favorable. This internal interruption is God speaking directly to your spirit. He removes your desire for something you were forcing. He takes away the excitement you were using to convince yourself. He closes the emotional door long before the physical door closes. Your spirit begins to feel what your mind has not yet perceived. This internal pause is God protecting you. One of the most misunderstood interruptions is the loss of control. You try to manage every detail. You push to keep everything together. You push to make every plan succeed. But the more you push, the more resistance you encounter. It is as if God places His hand over your plans and gently says, "No, not this, not now, not like that." This is God saving you from yourself, saving you from rushing ahead of His timing, saving you from building something without His foundation, saving you from settling for something beneath your calling. The interruption is not a barrier. It is a boundary placed in love. Sometimes God interrupts you because you are about to settle. You may be close to choosing what is convenient rather than what is aligned. You may be about to accept an opportunity that gives temporary comfort but long-term compromise. You may be tempted to follow a path that looks easier than the one God prepared. In these moments, He disrupts the convenience. He shakes the illusion. He stops you with a sudden pause so you will not enter a life that minimizes your purpose. When God interrupts, it is because He sees the pressure you are under and refuses to let that pressure determine your future. You may not always appreciate the interruption in the moment. It can leave you feeling confused, disappointed, or discouraged. Yet, over time, clarity emerges. You look back and realize that what felt like a setback was actually a rescue. What felt like a delay was actually protection. What felt like a closed door was actually a shield. God will often stop what you think you want in order to give you what you truly need. His interruptions are not random. They are precise. They arrive exactly when you are at risk of compromising your identity, your values, or your spiritual well-being. Divine interruption is an act of mercy. God intervenes not because you are weak, but because you are valuable. He pauses your steps not to restrict you, but to preserve you. He slows your pace not to punish you, but to keep you aligned with His timing. When the interruption comes, do not rush against it. Do not fight the pause. Do not force what God is trying to block. Instead, recognize the love hidden in the delay. Your plans may stop, but God's purpose continues. And His purpose always leads you to a life far greater than the one you were trying to build alone. The invitation. Hidden inside every warning. There are times when the signs God sends feel heavy, uncomfortable, or even frightening. You notice the hesitation in your spirit, the discomfort in your daily routine, the loss of meaning in familiar things, the collapse of plans, the fading of relationships, and the quiet interruptions that stop your momentum. These moments can feel like God is closing in on your life, removing pieces of stability, shaking your confidence, or taking away what you worked hard to build. But beneath every warning, beneath every disruption, beneath every shift, there is something far greater than correction. There is an invitation. God does not warn you to push you away. He warns you to draw you closer. Every sign He sends carries a quiet echo of His voice saying, "Come back to me." God knows that warnings alone can feel overwhelming. They expose misalignment. They reveal internal conflict. They confront the parts of your life that no longer match who He created you to be. Yet wrapped inside each warning is an opportunity. An opportunity to rediscover clarity, to return to peace, to reconnect with purpose, to rebuild what has been slowly fading inside your heart. When God reveals what is wrong, He is also revealing what is possible. His warnings are not the end of your story. They are the doorway into the next chapter He has been preparing. This invitation often arrives at the exact moment you feel most resistant, when you are torn between the life you have and the life God is calling you to. When change feels frightening, when uncertainty feels heavy, when obedience feels costly. You feel the tension because your spirit recognizes a transition while your mind clings to familiarity. But it is in this tension that the invitation becomes clear. God is not simply asking you to leave what is misaligned. He is asking you to trust Him with what comes next. He is asking you to loosen your grip on the life that drains you, so He can lead you into one that restores you. Every warning from God contains a reminder of His character. He warns because He cares. He interrupts because He sees. He redirects because He loves. He pulls you away from the wrong path because He has already prepared the right one. His purpose is not to make you afraid of your decisions. His purpose is to guide you toward decisions that honor your identity, your peace, and your destiny. Even in moments when the warning feels sharp, His intention is gentle. He is not asking you to walk alone. He is asking you to walk with Him again. There are times when the invitation feels subtle. You may sense a quiet pull inside your heart. You may feel a renewed desire to pray, to reflect, or to seek guidance. You may begin to feel drawn to peace again after months of restlessness. These subtle pulls are not random thoughts. They are spiritual invitations. God is calling you into closeness, into conversation, into alignment. He is reminding you that His presence is not distant. It is waiting for you to slow down long enough to notice it. The invitation also appears through conviction. When God reveals a pattern that needs to change or a decision that needs to be reconsidered, He does not reveal it to shame you. Conviction is not condemnation. Conviction is clarity. It is God shining light in the places where darkness has been hiding your truth. It is God giving you a chance to step out of the version of yourself that no longer reflects His plan. He invites you to grow, not by pressuring you, but by revealing the strength He placed within you. And then there are moments when the invitation becomes unmistakably strong, when the weight you feel is not fear, but longing, when your heart begins to crave the peace you once knew, when your spirit becomes restless for direction, purpose, and meaning. In these moments, God is not asking you to return to religion. He is asking you to return to relationship, a relationship that restores your identity, a relationship that strengthens your soul, a relationship that guides your steps with wisdom instead of confusion. Every warning leads you back to a decision. The decision to continue walking in a direction that empties you, or the decision to turn toward the path that revives you. God is not forcing you. He is inviting you. He is whispering to your heart, reminding you that you were never meant to navigate your life without Him. His invitation is not urgent to create fear, but sincere to create hope. He is calling you to come back before the wrong path shapes you into someone you were never meant to become. When God warns you, do not focus only on what He is asking you to leave. Focus on what He is inviting you to discover. A deeper peace, a clearer purpose, a stronger identity, a renewed connection with Him. Each warning is a doorway. Each shift is a chance to realign. Each collapse is making space, and each invitation is God reaching for you with the same love that has carried you through every season of your life. Returning to the path. The moment you finally understand what God was doing. There comes a moment, often after a long season of confusion, resistance, or inner struggle, when everything God has been showing you suddenly becomes clear. You look back at the hesitation, the discomfort, the fading joy, the collapsed plans, the shifting relationships, the divine interruptions, and the quiet invitations, and you begin to see a pattern. What once felt like loss now looks like alignment. What once felt like chaos now looks like guidance. What once felt like God pulling things away now reveals itself as God pulling you back. This is the moment when your spirit finally understands what your heart had been resisting. You realize that every warning, every closed door, every unsettling feeling was God protecting you from a path you were not meant to walk. Returning to the path is not an instant event. It begins with a quiet acceptance, a willingness to stop fighting what is falling apart, a willingness to release what no longer belongs, a willingness to trust the peace that God places in front of you. As soon as this acceptance happens, clarity enters. You begin to see where your steps drifted. You begin to see where your desires led you away from your purpose. You begin to see how you tried to build a life that was stable on the outside but empty on the inside. And you begin to see that God was never trying to punish you. He was trying to rescue you. This return often feels like waking up from a long sleep. Your mind becomes sharper. Your emotions grow lighter. Your priorities shift. You start to feel present in your own life again. The confusion that once clouded your decisions begins to fade. The heaviness that followed you lifts. The internal noise becomes quiet. You sense a new stillness, a new courage, and a new peace. These are signs that you are stepping back into alignment with your purpose. They are signs that your spirit is reconnecting with the direction God designed for you, long before you realized you had drifted from it. As you return to the path, you also notice that God begins restoring parts of you that were slowly fading. Your hope returns, your strength returns, your sense of direction returns. He brings back the clarity you lost while chasing what was never meant to hold you. He renews your desire for what is true, meaningful, and eternal. He reawakens dreams that came from Him, not from pressure or fear. He repairs the parts of your heart that were damaged by your time on the wrong path. This restoration is gentle, but it is powerful. It does not happen through striving. It happens through surrender. Returning to the path also brings a new awareness of God's faithfulness. You begin to see how He was present in every interruption, how He was guiding you through every discomfort, how He was protecting you in every collapse, how He was speaking through every silence. You realize that He never left you. Even in the moments when you stopped listening, His voice was there. His mercy was there. His guidance was there. He walked with you even when you walked in the wrong direction. And now, as you return, He walks with you even more closely. The most powerful part of returning to the path is rediscovering who you truly are. When you step back into alignment with God, your identity becomes clearer. You reconnect with your purpose. You regain the emotional and spiritual strength you lost. You stop settling for versions of yourself shaped by fear, confusion, or disappointment. You begin to live as the person God formed with intentionality, vision, and love. You feel grounded again. You feel authentic again. You feel whole again. This is the reward of returning. Not just a better path, but a restored you. This chapter of your life is not about regret. It is about revelation. It is about understanding that every warning was love. Every disruption was mercy. Every pause was protection. And every redirection was God guiding you back to the life He has been preparing since the beginning. You are not returning to a path of limitation. You are returning to a path of purpose, a path where your spirit finds peace, your heart finds strength, and your life finds meaning again. When you finally understand what God was doing all along, obedience stops feeling like sacrifice and begins to feel like freedom. You realize that every step you take with Him leads you closer to who you were always meant to become. And in this understanding, you walk forward with confidence, knowing that you are exactly where God wants you to be. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are home.